in criminal investigations. That's 87% of which were assembled using products sold by defendant Polymer 80. Increasingly, ghost guns have been recovered in cases of homicide, domestic violence, robbery, and other violent crimes. Because they are unserialized, as is required by state law, and therefore untraceable by our law enforcement to their original purchaser, they can be used to commit multiple crimes and have become popular among illegal gun traffickers. The lawsuit filed today against these distributors will hold them accountable for the harm they've caused in our city due to their reckless and illegal business practices, and to stop them from continuing to sell their illegal products. I'm grateful to be joined today by our city partners. We will continue to fight for every resident's right to health and safety in their neighborhood with every resource at our disposal. We're also joined today by the Giffords Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence, which provided extensive research and analysis to support our legal argument in the lawsuit. They will be speaking today about how ghost guns are impacting Philadelphia, our Commonwealth, and the rest of the country. But first, I would like to introduce our Mayor, Jim Kenney. His administration has shown great dedication to combating gun violence through every possible avenue. We are proud to announce this legal action today in accordance with the administration's and the city's priority to make Philadelphia a safer place for all city residents. Mr. Mayor.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you. Over the last 3 years, we have witnessed an explosion in gun violence across America and here at home in Philadelphia. Time and time again, families have suffered the heartbreak of a murdered loved one, a son, daughter, a father, a mother, or a friend. And in a horrific incident on Monday night, we all know, a shooter murdered 5 people and likely would have harmed even more had the police not bravely and swiftly apprehended the subject. As a city, we all have endured these tragedies together while investing hundreds of millions of dollars to address the problem. I want the public to know there is no greater priority for our administration than to reduce violence and create safer communities and a more just city for everyone. And we know that investing in prevention and law enforcement has to be part of that solution. But make no mistake, the root of the problem is the proliferation of guns in our city and in our country. Guns are the common denominator in every single shooting. This includes the illegal handguns known as ghost guns. And we are announcing the filing of this lawsuit to stop them from continuing to flood the streets of our city. Let's be clear about what we're doing today and why. The selling of ghost guns is using the mail to sell a weapon that will often be used in the commission of crimes and even murder, and we intend to stop it. A ghost gun is built by the manufacturer and mailed in parts or kits, which are then often assembled by the purchaser and often used on the streets of Philadelphia to commit violent crime. These weapons are virtually untraceable because they have no serial number, and they can be purchased without background check, which means anyone, a criminal, a child, anyone, can buy a ghost gun. It also means that they are manufactured and sold in violation of Pennsylvania law. They're already illegal in the state. The manufacturers attempted to avoid liability by claiming that it is selling parts, not guns. But the gun kits they sell can be assembled in minutes by virtually anyone. All they need are simple household tools. In Philadelphia, our police department has seen over a 300% increase in the number of ghost guns in the last 4 years, which corresponds to the rise in violent crime on our streets. We've made numerous joint calls for gun safety and legislation that can help us do more to protect our communities. While lawmakers have not answered any of these requests, as a matter of fact, they've stood in our way and superseded many of the things we've tried to do, our officers have taken a record number of guns off our street. And let me reiterate, our police department is one of the finest in the nation. They're brave men and women. They put their life on the line every day. That incident on Monday night, they were taking active fire while scooping people into cars, getting them to the hospital to try to save their lives. And they deserve all of our thanks and credit, so thank you. Last year alone, Philadelphia police recovered 575 ghost guns in the course of their criminal investigations. And we are not alone. In the last 4 years, the use of ghost guns has exploded in cities all across America. Here in Philadelphia, we hold criminals accountable for their crimes. That's exactly what we're doing today. The manufacturers of these weapons need to be held accountable for what they're doing. People are dying, murdered by weapons that are sold for the exact purpose. If we as a city are serious about ending gun violence, then suing the manufacturers of these weapons is a critical next step. I commend our law department and the police department and all those who have worked to build the case for the lawsuit we have filed today. Let this be a warning to these manufacturers. We are coming, and we will not stop until these weapons are eliminated from our streets. So I'm now pleased to introduce my colleague and our partner on this ongoing fight to reduce the flow of guns into our city, City Council President Darrell Clark.
Good afternoon. Today we stand here one more time doing what we shouldn't have to do, taking a route that we shouldn't have to take because of the unwillingness, the lack of courage of legislators on the state side and on the federal side, right? We shouldn't have to do this, but I want to commend the mayor, the solicitor, the Gifford Law Center, the police, all of the people that are involved in this process because you continue to come up with creative ways to attack this very, very challenging problem. So I commend the heck out of you. Thank you so much for always making sure that we're going to try to keep our citizens safe. But I just want to take a step back. So yesterday, 4th of July, Independence Day, celebrating freedom, freedom of the nation, right? And I saw, and I'm sure a number of you saw, individuals marching in parades with flags, right? Those same individuals that don't have the courage to do the right thing, right, and pass laws outlawing assault weapons, right? But while they marched and they talk about freedom, the people in the neighborhoods in King Session and neighborhoods across the city, they don't have the freedom to walk to the store at night because some idiot has a gun and he's out there shooting randomly. They don't have the freedom to go to school, right, without worrying about getting shot. They don't have the freedom to drive their car without worrying about somebody putting a gun to their head and saying, give me your car, right? So if they're going to be engaged in this whole thing called freedom, which is so important in our nation, get engaged in something meaningful, that the overwhelming number of the people in the country get rid of assault weapons, stop ghost guns, stop appealing the serialization of ghost guns. I mean, these things are good sense legislation and regulatory and issues. So I don't know what it's going to take for children getting shot, mass murders. I think we're over like 350 now in the city, in the country. What more will it take? So for all those individuals that want to celebrate freedom and shaking hands and smiling and grinning for political purposes, step to the plate and do the right thing and pass legislation. So the mayor, city solicitor, Gifford Law Center, guys, I want to thank you so much. To the police, we're here with you. We're going to make sure that we always support you because we know you have our back. You run to the fire, right, as opposed to running away. So thank you. Look forward to continuing this awesome, awesome case. Very creative. Thank you. Thank you all. God bless you. And please be safe out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President and Mr. Mayor. So nationally, the number of ghost guns recovered by law enforcement has exploded in recent years and accelerated during the pandemic. I'd like to introduce David Pacino, Deputy Chief Counsel at the Giffords Law Center, who will highlight the impact of ghost guns and the efforts to stop their distribution across the country. David?
Thank you very much, Solicitor. I am David Pacino. I'm the Deputy Chief Counsel of Giffords Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence, which is the gun violence prevention organization founded and led by former Congresswoman and gun violence survivor Gabby Giffords. My colleagues and I at Giffords Law Center, we work across the country to try to reduce the number of injuries and deaths from guns. And in doing that work, I've learned a simple thing. That is that when people who should not have guns, who are not legally allowed to have guns, somehow get access to them, that's when people get shot, and that's when people get killed. And so my colleagues work every day to try to stop that, to try to prevent people who should not have guns from getting their hands on them. And that is hard work, but it's made harder because there is an entire industry that is focused on doing the exact opposite, in trying to get as many guns out there on the street, no matter whose hands they go into, no matter whether their customers are legally allowed to possess them or not. Polymer 80 and JST Supply are focused on a competitive advantage, which is that they don't follow the gun laws that all the other responsible gun dealers do follow. They don't conduct background checks before they sell all their products, which is what a responsible gun dealer would do and is what is required by law. So when they're making a sale, they don't know who the purchaser is. They don't know if this person has a history of felonies, could be at risk of suicide, could be a child, could be a gun trafficker. They have no idea because it doesn't matter to them. What matters to them is making the sale. What matters to them is the bottom line. And that's not just morally wrong, it's a violation of Pennsylvania law. So I'm proud to be able to stand with the city today, along with the Hausfeld law firm, to be able to say that this is going to stop, that we will not accept this unlawful and reckless conduct, and we will not let these companies mortgage our community's safety for their bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David, and the Gifford Law Center. So since the start of 2023, 190 individuals, including children, have lost their lives to gun violence. An additional 754 people have been shot and seriously injured. The gun violence epidemic in Philadelphia is a serious threat to the health of the public. I'd like to welcome Dr. Cheryl Bettigal, our health commissioner, whose team has witnessed the impact of ghost guns in our communities firsthand. Dr. Bettigal.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here. When we think about what it means to take a public health approach to gun violence, it's useful to think about how that public health approach has improved auto safety. Over the past several decades, a public health approach focusing on identifying risk factors and protective factors for traffic deaths has led to safety improvements to road design, car design, and to laws that govern driver behavior. Our highways are now built with edge and center line stripes and reflectors to help drivers see curves, improved lighting, addition of barriers separating oncoming traffic lanes, and with guardrails. Cars are now built with safety features that we really take for granted now, including headrests, energy-absorbing steering wheels, shatter-resistant windshields, and seatbelts. And safer driver behavior is encouraged through education and enforced through laws against driving while intoxicated and underage drinking, and enforcement of seatbelt and child seat safety laws. Drivers who persist in flouting these laws by drinking and driving repeatedly can lose their licenses to help keep all of us safer. Those changes have made an impressive difference in traffic deaths per mile driven. When we look at gun violence as a public health problem, we can take that problem apart in a similar way to look at the environment, the gun itself, and the gun user. Our state and federal gun laws recognize the fact that most gun crimes are committed by a few individuals, and that we can recognize the highest risk individuals through their past actions. That is the reason that people who have a history of a felony conviction for committing a violent crime, for instance, are barred from purchasing a gun, as are individuals who are the subject of an active protection from abuse order that provides for the relinquishment of firearms. Background checks are required in the state of Pennsylvania to identify exactly this group of highest risk individuals and to prevent them from purchasing a gun. By supplying guns without the background checks required by state law, Polymer 80 Inc. and JSD Supply are making it easy for high-risk individuals with a history of violent acts and firearm offenses to obtain guns. In doing so, they are putting all Philadelphians at risk. More than 200 Philadelphia children have been shot in a single year, and children across the city report being afraid to walk outside their homes. I am grateful for the actions of the city of Philadelphia to put a stop to the efforts of those ghost gun manufacturers to do an end run around Pennsylvania laws intended to keep guns out of the hands of high-risk individuals. Thank you all.
We will take some questions now. However, I would like to make sure that we ask questions first about the lawsuit before we get into anything else. So.
There are already been lawsuits by other cities against companies, including Polymer 80. They, in fact, have had several multi-million-dollar settlements. First of all, is the city looking for a financial settlement, and if so,
Well, we're just looking for sanity. We're looking for them to abide by state law. I mean, Pennsylvania state law is weak, one of the weakest in the nation to start with. These guys go around even that. So what we're looking to do is a change of behavior. And if they're going to continue selling this deadly product, then they're going to have to follow the same rules as other, for want of a better word, mainstream gun dealers. So you can talk about any monetary settlement. I just want them to stop their behavior or put them out of business.
If those other lawsuits didn't do that, why didn't you?
Because we have a great law department. But we don't, listen, everything we've tried to do since I've been here and before I've been here, the legislature has overrode us. Intentionally, the Republicans for the most part, and some conservative Democrats have overrode every single common sense thing we try to do. And we keep on coming up with, hopefully, ingenious ways of attacking it. But we can't just sit idly by. I mean, don't hold your breath for the legislature or Congress to change anything. You'll turn blue because they're not doing anything. We are the ones. They are the ones picking up the carnage in the streets, and our families are the ones that are suffering and traumatized. And they're taking checks to the NRA still. Hey, great, let's have a party. But they're not doing their jobs. And I was standing in the courtyard of Independence Hall yesterday for our celebration. I thought to myself, after Monday night, the people in that building who wrote that document did not have this in mind. They wrote the Second Amendment for a single-shot, muzzle-loaded long gun that was used to fight the British. Because we had a militia. Now we have an Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard. We don't need a militia. No one needs to have an AR-15. They're not defending anybody. They're going out in the street and killing people. So we hope to be successful. We have to have some change in their behavior. And Diana, if you want to talk about any monetary, I wasn't aware of any monetary request.
And I'm sorry, I didn't get your name? Lauren. So our lawsuit requests both compensatory and injunctive relief. So I think, whatever, and I think Dr. Bettigal and others, and we have put together substantial monetary studies as to the economic impact and burden, not just the loss of lives in Philadelphia, but the actual economic burden on the city itself. So we are happy to put that forward and show that during discovery in order to get something that can come close to compensating us on a monetary level, but we will be seeking both monetary and injunctive relief, as the mayor stated. I'm not going to comment on that, but. Okay, that's, we usually don't get notice when people sue us either, so. Yes, it has been filed. We worked with the Giffords Law Center and our police and our law enforcement as to identifying which were the suppliers, at issue here in Philadelphia. I cannot comment on that. I would leave it up to law enforcement if it's appropriate to comment on that. If not, no comment. I will leave that up to law enforcement if they're in a position to comment on that right now.
Yes, I can answer that question. I am Michael Garvey. I am the head of the PPD Crime Laboratory. Privately made firearms, which is basically what we call all of these, we have seen a large increase over the last 5 years. Starting in 2019, we saw 95 per year. Prior to that, we didn't even count them because there was less than 5 for the 3 years prior to that. By 2020, we see an increase from 95 to 250 PMFs. By 2021, we jump up to 571. 2022, 575. And so far, to date for 2023, I know you heard 285, but from the time of us providing that, we are now up to 292. These are firearms that when we receive them, crime guns, which last year we saw a total of 6,269, of which 575 were privately made firearms, little under 10%. But what I can also say is that they are the third in terms of rank for the crime guns that we see. So the third most common crime gun that we see are PMFs. So the problem here is we're seeing larger numbers of PMFs, which prevent us from doing the very thing that we have to do once it's used in a crime, is figure out how did that firearm get used in a crime. PMFs prevent that process by us not being able to trace it to the first purchaser and any sale after. So when we have these crime guns, and they're the only ones we're talking about here, so 292 crime guns that we cannot trace. Any other questions on that before I? The first most common type is a Glock. The second is a Taurus. And then after that are obviously the PMFs. I can talk about generally that, yes, we are seeing crime guns being used by younger people, but I can't say for the PMFs, that these are the ages that, use those versus any others. But we are seeing crime guns in the hands of people younger and younger. You're welcome.
And just the other frightening thing about these privately made firearms is not only are they not traceable because without a serial number, but you can't magnetize them. So you can bring them into a public space, walk through a magnetometer and not trigger it.
What makes you believe that this time will have different results?
Because I have faith. I have faith in the courts to do the right thing at some point, faith in God, and faith in our law department. We can't just sit on our hands. I mean, as I said before, every time council or the administration comes up with some way to control, to influence the proliferation of guns, the state legislature, in their infinite lack of wisdom, steps up and stops us. So we run out of things we can do until we figure out new things we can do. Yes. I'm not a gun guy.
They're Polymer 80 and JSD Supply.
This has nothing to do with what happened Monday night. This has been in the works for, I guess, a year or more.
Yes. We're happy to distribute a copy of the filed complaint to anyone who would like it, but as you will see, as a preview, it is a very detailed complaint. It's over 60 pages long, and so it is, it was extensive work with the Giffords Law Center, the Hosfeld firm, and in particular, our law department, our litigation chair, Renee Garcia, our chief of affirmative and special litigation, Ben Fields, and the divisional, Lydia First, who have been really on the forefronts in all of our creative affirmative litigation efforts to try to, as the mayor said, try to attack this epidemic of gun violence the last way that we actually can. So it is very detailed. It took a long time, and so that's why it took so long.
Are these the only two companies that make those
Right. They're the ones based on my understanding is that based on the data and the research that we have done, those were the ones that were most significant here in Philadelphia. That is my understanding, but again, focusing just on this particular lawsuit, that's why we focused on them.
And do you like their components were used in Johnson's house?
I think, yes. I mean, as I think Director Garvey had sort of alluded to, and I'm sure as you have seen through the different gun violence briefings, it's very hard because they're unserialized to really put them together. There are some key components that are very distinguishable to these particular manufacturers. So we focused on those, and we're pretty confident that these are the ones that we need to go forward against in this lawsuit. Well, we hope not. We hope to make the necessary efforts and changes in the law and behavior necessary through this lawsuit, and as the mayor said, and all the other litigations, and this is really a full court press against this epidemic. So we're hopeful, as the mayor said, in all of these different efforts that we will see a change in that supply.
Any more on the lawsuit? Anything else?
So I'm Frank Venor, the Deputy Commissioner of Investigations. So what I can tell you is, and I'm not going to get deep into the investigation, but from the shooting on Monday night, the defendant that the police stopped out there that was eventually charged by the district attorney had 2 firearms. One was an AR-15, the other was a 9mm. We've confirmed through our lab both of those weapons were privately made firearms. Both of them were PMFs. So they're part of that 292 that we now have in our possession. Right, well, the lab does an analysis on them, and they could tell, yes, they don't have any markings, they're not traceable. So if he would have dropped that weapon and got away, we would have had no way to trace that weapon back to him. And yes, privately made firearms, yeah. The analysis is still underway by the lab. We'll have more information. We have some forensic examinations that have to be done on those guns, and then we pass it over and they'll do the firearms examination. So there's more examination to be done. Yeah, I've seen all kinds of reports out there. What I could tell you is that we can't comment on that, any interaction or statement that he may have given. All right?
We good? Thanks.